So Nina, this is a big fight for you, and it's kind of interesting. You go back, after you had that year-long layoff, you kind of said this is where you're going to be. You're going to come back in, do some good work, build yourself up to fighting, contenders in this weight class, and here you are, kind of going into this fight in exactly that position. Is this how you saw your path coming back to the sport after that year break you had?
Yeah, I saw myself coming back stronger, of course, than where I started. It was a rough go in the beginning. I had a hard time getting to 115. You could see it in my performance, and then after that, I had an injury a year off, and then another year off I got sick, and then it was like waiting for them to give me a fight. So I knew that once the momentum started and I got the ball rolling, that this is where I would be. Randa's a good opponent for me to show that this is where I belong, and hopefully it jumps me up to the next level. Yeah, and she's fought a lot of the best in this weight class since coming off the Ultimate Fighter, but for her it's been the model of inconsistency. I think she's alternated wins and losses her past 10 fights or so. Yeah. She won the last one, so her record says maybe it won't go her way this time, but do you look into that at all? I mean, someone that's just kind of riding that up and down wave? I don't really look at the win-lose wave, because in my own, I have a few fights that aren't on my record from non-commissioned bouts in the beginning, and if you look at that, it would show that I went 1-3 in the beginning, and then I went 5 finishes in a row. So if she was looking at mine the same way I should be looking at her, she should be worried she's gonna get knocked out on Saturday. So, I can't go into a fight thinking oh, she did this, or she's never lost in Canada. Well, I've never lost in Canada either. I mean, I've never fought here, but I've never lost here. So I don't like to look at it like that. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And you just, look at the actual fight itself. And I mean, when you talk about yourself and being able to turn that corner, especially with these past 2 fights, was there a key in that? I mean, is it a lot to do with, Amanda and being in a good team, and just having a champion level fighter in your life to see what you need to do to be at that level? Of course, having Amanda with me helps. It's gives me a good view of what it's going to be like when I do get there. But also it had a lot to do with just my life at the time. I learned to let go of a lot of things that used to stress me out. I was worried about my future, and I need to go back to get a real job, or what am I doing in this sport, or I just questioned where I wanted to be. And now I know where I am. I'm at a good place in my life. I'm at a good gym. I'm training the way I want to. I'm not hurting myself and training with injuries. I'm being more smart about my career, and it's paid off. Yeah, so do you feel like it's more a mental progression than your skill set itself? I wouldn't say mental exactly. I would just say just finding the right balance. I've always been an athlete my whole life, and to me nothing about the physical part has changed much training wise. I haven't added extra running or extra jiu-jitsu. I've always just stayed with the pace. It's just more about taking things the way it is, not stressing out, not having anxiety about missing a training or anything like that. Just kind of taking it as it is and going with it. Yeah, and I mean, how do you feel your skill set has progressed though, especially in these past couple years? I feel my skill set has progressed greatly. I've taken it out of making it so don't worry about this, don't do this, and going back to what I'm naturally good at. I've always been a good striker. I've always had good movement. I have good ground, so I'm not worried about getting taken down the way I used to be. So wherever the fight goes, I'm ready, and I'm good all around. And how has the training camp been? Because Amanda was absent for part of it, right? She was stuck in Brazil, so she wasn't all around. So what was just the preparation like, being, I guess just by yourself a little bit more and going through the camp? Well, this was the most time during a camp that Amanda hasn't been there, because she was in Brazil visiting her family. She just had her fight. But it didn't really change much. I spoke to her on the phone every day, and the gym was my gym before it was her gym. So I know everyone there. I'm comfortable there, and it wasn't that big of a change. Yeah, and she's here now. And she's here now, right? So that's all that matters. Yeah, there you go. And I mean, just to point to her for a little bit, I mean, what do you make of all the stuff that's going on with her in Cyborg? I feel like you bring a good outside voice when we deal with these kind of situations. Well, the thing with the Cyborg fight is it was something that we've been asking for a while. We sat down about a year and a half ago, and we were thinking what's the next step? The hugest fight at the time before that was Ronda. That happened, it went. UFC 200, that's where she got the belt. It happened, it went. There was always a question about who the next contender is at 35, and when there's a question about that, it's not going to be something that's going to sell so much, because if they don't even know who the next contender is, why are the fans going to care about the fight? Right. So the next step was, hey, Cyborg, she's always struggling to find a good opponent. You know, like most of her opponents are 135ers or soft 45ers. So why not make this a huge fight for both of them? They're both looking for a top contender. There's never been a UFC female that has gone to both weight class, and Amanda's ready to do that. She's not wanting a catchweight. She wants to go up to 45. Cyborg's always been weird about the date because she wants it like 6 weeks notice, 8 weeks notice, right after Amanda's coming off of a fight at 135 where she's her smallest. You know, if you want to build this fight, then make it fair, or stop making these excuses like, I don't want to fight a Brazilian, I don't want to fight a 135er, but then posting that you want to fight Indiana Gomez, who's a Brazilian, or another girl that's a 135er that she fought her last fight. So, you know, I feel like let's just put all that aside and just fight. I don't get it. It's a huge historical fight. I don't really see why there's so much involved. Just fighter.
Just comes down to the date, it seems.
Yeah,
like.
just find it like, why can't you wait till December? Like, is it because of the money? I'm sure the UFC will compensate you for taking an extra couple months off than what you're going to make fighting a nobody. So I don't know. It's in her hands. Yeah. Amanda signed the contract. I was there. I took a picture.
Perfect. I mean, must be good for you too, right? Because you can get through this fight, and it's not like she's jumping right into a training camp. You can kind of have a little space to really prepare for this, massive opportunity, right?
Yeah, she's already started her preparation to go up to 145. After this fight, we'll have a couple weeks off where we can just like both go on vacation, because I wasn't able to do anything after her fight. It was like really stressful. Like, her fight ended, my camp started, and she was gone, and so we'll take a couple weeks off. She'll still be getting her preparation to go to 145, and that's the next step. That's what we're getting ready for.
Yeah, and I mean, I know you said for a while now that the ultimate goal is to have you both be champions at the same time. I mean, a win over here over Randa. Where do you feel like you fall into this weight class? I mean, we have a huge fight between Tisha and Joanna on this card. Just where do you think things fall in this weight class, especially Rose is out for a bit? This
is like I think the biggest female weight class in the UFC. It's the most stacked, and I feel like a good win over Randa, maybe a little crap talk will give me something in the top 10 or 5. I mean, I just want to get there, like I'm ready to go. I know where I belong. I know I can hang with these girls, and I just want the quickest road there. Yeah, that must be the most frustrating part, like when you feel mentally, physically prepared for that, but like it's just time, right? Yeah, you just got to take it as it is. You can't get mad. You can't throw fits. This is what it is. I work for a promotion. They make their decisions, and I just got to be like, okay, I'll do it. If it gets me there, I'll do it. And I'm just waiting. Is that one of the harder things about being a fighter that maybe people don't think about? Like you just want these goals so bad, but it's just, a fight against the clock sometimes. You know what? I think a lot of fighters get too involved in the politics, or not understanding the politics involved in the UFC or in MMA in general. And I think it frustrates them, and it makes them say dumb things out of emotion. But this is what it is. If you can't realize that this is how the sport is, you can't pick and choose your fights. You can't make them want you to fight a top 5. You can't get the contender shot. Then you're just going to stress yourself out. It comes as it goes. You answer the phone call, you say yes or no, and then you move on from there. Yeah. So do you think, being able to let go of that and like have that understanding and just, be able to live with the situation kind of maybe gives you an advantage over some of these other people? I believe that knowing how the game works gives you the biggest advantage in this sport. You can't expect anything, and you can't be surprised. It is what it is. You take it and go.